Hello and welcome to another off-season edition of the Cats Whiskers podcast. My name is Jono Bullard and tonight I am joined by Mr. Aaron Lord.
Good evening, Jono.
Good evening, mate. And also, making a welcome return, it's Mr. Paul Balm.
Hello.
How are you both, all right?
Yeah, not bad, not bad.
I'm very well, Jono. Really looking forward to this chat between us.
Good. Well, you could sound a bit more sincere, but we'll take it. We've got a big show coming up tonight. We'll be looking at all the Panthers signings and the comings and goings since our last podcast on the 22nd of April. And we've also got interviews with new Panthers signings, Jeff Dimmen, Miika Wiikman and Paul Swindlehurst. So, guys, very, very quickly before we begin, what's your sort of overall impression of the roster so far? Paul, I'll come to you first.
It's a good start. I mean, obviously the defence is complete now, so we pretty much know what that is. But I think it'll be interesting to see now which direction Corey's going in with the rest of the team. Well, essentially the forwards, because we've got plenty of size, we've got plenty of the thing that a lot of people said we were missing last year in the toughness in people like Lizon and Peckham. So it'll just be interesting to see what Corey does with those other places.
Yeah, I think I agree, to be honest. I think, obviously, like Paul just said there, a lot of people, moaned about the fact that we sort of struggled in the size department last season and we got roughed up in places. And I think, obviously, Corey, like Paul said, has recruited that this time. And I just think it gives us a good foundation to actually go out there and get six forwards in that are creative, know where the net is, and are playmakers. So I think it's a solid start, but there's no point having a strong defence if you haven't got a decent forward lineup. So it's only half done at the moment.
Okay, we'll talk about that in more detail a little bit later. But first we'll take you back to April the 24th. That was the first new signing of the season. Paul Swindlehurst, the British defenceman, joined from the Dundee Stars. And earlier this week, he caught up with Aaron.
I'm delighted to welcome onto this week's Cats Whiskers podcast a player that seems that we signed quite a while ago, actually, now, to be honest. It's Mr. Paul Swindlehurst. How are you?
I'm very good, thank you.
Good. Like I just say, it does feel that we announced your signing quite a while ago. Does it feel like that for you, or does it seem like yesterday when it was all announced?
It's a bit strange, to be honest, because the summer seemed to go so fast, and yeah, as you say, it was a while ago, but I'm still getting compliments from people on the side of signing with the Panthers and everything like that. So it kind of keeps it like it's not been too long ago. So it's a really good feeling. I've got so much support from everybody for joining the Panthers.
How has that made you feel? Was you expecting the big reaction? Because obviously when you were announced, social media in today's society, it really does impact straight away. So how's that support been for you?
The support's been incredible. On Twitter and everything like that, and everybody just wishing me the best, even Dundee fans wishing me the best on the move, and all the new fans from Nottingham supporting me and saying welcome to the club, talking about me as a player, that I'll be useful at Nottingham, and it makes you feel really happy about your move, and the fans are already behind you, and you know that you're going to have a good time there. And yeah, it's a really good start to the year.
Obviously, you just mentioned the Dundee fans there. You've been with Dundee a few years, and going up there from a Panthers point of view, it really is kind of like it's a close-knit club. It's a family club to a certain degree. Was it difficult to leave there, or was it? Do you feel it's the right time to move on to a new challenge? It
was a difficult move because, as some people know, I did sign a 2-year deal last year. But I just think that it was time for me to move on, and I was getting a lot of ice time there, and they looked after me so well. But as you say, I think it's a time for me to move on. And in this game, you kind of got to be a bit selfish in yourself. And for me at the time, it was a good time for me to move clubs to a high-end organisation like Nottingham to develop my game a bit further. As I'm 22 now, so I really need to start playing in the big games and in that conference, and hopefully with some, as you said, Nottingham have signed some very good defencemen this year, learn off them and build my game up a lot more.
How did you feel when you first knew that Nottingham were interested in you? Was it a surprise? Did you actually envisage maybe that happening? Like you say, a big club coming in and potentially looking to sign you for this upcoming season?
Well, after the season at Nottingham, I got approached by quite a few teams, which was a huge shock for me. As you say, I'm still young, I'm still an up-and-coming player, and to get offers from these clubs, made me feel really good that other teams wanted me, and it makes you look like you've done something right.
Yeah.
And when Corey started speaking to me, it was a real shock because it was someone I didn't really expect to call me. However, last year after GB, Corey wanted to sign me, and I'd already signed a contract with Dundee. But when he came and spoke to me this year, I know how good Corey is a coach with developing young players and giving them the ice time that they need and working with them on a daily basis. So it was really a no-brainer to come and work with Corey because, as I said, I've played for him under GB, and he helped me out a lot there, and his minor details of people's games really helps, and it's that what you need from a coach to fine-tune you into becoming the player that you're supposed to be and where you can go a long way within your game.
Mentioning Corey there, it sounds like he was quite a major factor in you signing for the Panthers. I mean, like you said there, Corey's got a reputation of bringing on the young GB lads. You have to look at from a defenseman point of view. Stevie Lee from the Panthers, Sam Oakford as well had a very good season last year. Rob Lakovic. There's plenty there. So, was he a major factor in you signing on the dotted line, as it would?
Definitely. I spoke to Corey on the phone a few times, and the way that he was speaking to me about what he can do for me and where he wants me to be in the future is exactly what I need from a coach for my game. And definitely Corey was probably the main factor of me signing the contract with Nottingham.
You mentioned earlier that, looking at the signings that the Panthers have made so far this season, especially defensively, I mean, does that excite you to know that you'll be playing alongside those guys?
Definitely, 100%. When we signed the ex-NHL guy,
Theo Peckham,
that's something that the fact that I can speak to him and learn off him and everybody else there on the defence, even Stevie Lee for that matter, he's gone a long way in his game as a British player, and that's something that I aspire to be where he's at his age. And it makes me feel really good because my first year in Dundee, I was playing with Tyson Dorzak and Rory Rawlick, and I just looked up to them and learnt off them every game, and that's what I need as a player. I need someone who can show me the ropes and tell me what to do and guide me towards where I want to be.
We just mentioned ex-NHLer Theo Peckham there. You've also had a little bit of experience, around the NHL training camps with the Chicago Blackhawks at the start of last season. I mean, how was that? Was that another shock that you got the call up there? And what was the whole experience like? Because it must have been just amazing to experience that training camp.
Definitely. It was a huge shock last summer when I decided last summer, speaking to Doug Christiansen about getting an agent for America and seeing if I can go and get over there. And I got talking to a couple of guys, and then I got the offer for a Chicago Blackhawks rookie tournament. I was speechless when it came through, the fact that they actually want me to go over there and represent the Chicago Blackhawks with the up-and-coming players over there. It's a different life, should I say. They live and breathe hockey, and that's always on the mind. The details that they put into their games and the coaches that they use for different aspects of the game is incredible. I learned so much out there for the short time I was over there, and to play under the players like the first round draft picks and stuff like that was incredible. And it's still not real to me, if I say it, the fact that I played with some of the guys who played for Chicago in the NHL this year. I played behind them, I've spoke to them, and I've played with them. So it's a real achievement on my part.
Oh, definitely. I mean, do you think it's something that you don't appreciate fully now? It's something that maybe in a few years, and even when you hang the laces up, it'll be something that you look back on and go, really, I did achieve something quite special there.
Definitely something. I always think of it as something to tell the kids. That's one thing that I always want to do. That's one thing that kind of pushes me as a player. Is I want stories to tell when I'm older. I want to say I've been to this country and played there. I want to say I've played with that person, and it's something that I think later in life you'll be able to tell people and they'll go, "Wow, that's really cool." And that's something that drives me towards it, especially with GB2 representing your country, saying that, like, I got a silver medal at the last World Championships, and with the Olympic qualifiers coming up, I think it's a really good story to tell, and that's what drives me towards achieving some of the goals that I set for myself.
Just obviously on goals, I mean, let's bring it back to the upcoming season. What are your personal goals? Do you set yourself these goals at the start of the season, or is it more about seeing how it goes at the beginning of the season and look at it, week to week, month to month?
I personally think that you need to have goals set at the beginning of the season. There's no point, in my eyes, setting goals throughout the year. I think you need to set yourself 2 or 3 goals, or even, like, that would be my goal for, say, Dundee. 2 or 3 goals, maybe make the playoffs, and then a higher goal, win the conference. But I think with the Nottingham and the team that they're putting together this year, I think the trophies are the main goal. The league, the playoffs, and the Challenge Cup. I've not won a trophy. I've won the Gardner Conference, but I've never made the playoffs weekend. So that's one thing that I want to get towards, is the playoff weekend. I'd love to win the whole league, and I think the Challenge Cup, I'd love to play in the Challenge Cup.
You've played in the Gardner Conference, and you're moving obviously to the Eardhart, and is it exciting that you'll be playing, the Belfast, the Sheffields, the Cardiffs, the Coventrys on a regular basis? I mean, let's not put any disrespect to the Gardner Conference and Dundee, but you will be facing a tougher opponents on a more regular basis, so that must be exciting.
100% it is. I've always believed that I play up to better teams. So if I get thrown in the deep end against good teams, I raise my game, and I think that's one thing that I'm looking forward to, is playing against good teams week in and week out, where I'll have to concentrate for the whole game. And I believe the bigger the game is, the better I play.
The way that other teams are building their roster, it does look like the Elite League is going to be a lot stronger next year as well.
Yeah, definitely. With the imports rising, there's going to be better players. Teams are putting more money into the clubs. The whole standard of the Elite League is going to rise this next season. I think it'll be good for everybody to see some of these players come in from abroad to play in this league, and I think it'll put Britain on the map, really, that all these players are coming over to play in this league, and maybe build bridges for British players to move abroad and gain some respect from other leagues throughout the world.
Just finally, do you wish it was September tomorrow, or is it about enjoying the rest of the off season?
No, it's definitely about the season starting. Kind of have a relax for 2 weeks, and then you get back into training every day, and you're training towards the season, and you just kind of want the season to come around a lot faster.
I think as fans we're like that as well. You have your 2 weeks off, but then it's about, come on, we need to get back to hockey season now, to be honest.
Yeah, definitely. It's really enjoyable being home with the family and everything, but as everybody knows who plays hockey, that a hockey team is your family whilst you're playing, and it's tough not being around everybody every day. You're sat at home and you have to organise doing stuff with your other friends. But yeah, so I just want the season to come around and get started again.
Yeah, well, I mean, thanks for joining us on this week's podcast. Enjoy the off-season as much as you can, but looking forward to seeing you at the start of the season, and hopefully catch up with you throughout the season as well.
Definitely, thank you very much.
Paul Swindlehurst there. Aaron, you spoke to him, and he came across as a very driven and ambitious individual.
Yeah, he did, because, that is one thing that I took away from the interview and the chat that I had with him. Very determined, knows, what he wants out of his career, confident in his own ability as well. And what I really liked was that he knows that he needs to sort of step up a level. And as we sort of chatted in that interview, moving from the Gardner Conference to the Eardhart will provide that for him. And yeah, just, like I say, he knows what he wants out of his career, and he's not afraid to say it. He's not afraid to believe in himself and actually go and achieve those goals that he said in that little interview there. So, really nice to talk to him, and I think he's going to be a really good signing for the Panthers.
Paul, one of the things I took out from that interview was how he mentioned Corey Nielsen's ability to develop British players was a major factor in him coming to the Panthers. And it's something that often gets overlooked, don't you think?
I think it is at times. Yeah, I think the work that Nielsen's done. I mean, you only have to look at the track record of people that he's brought through, not just sort of local Nottingham lads like Robert Lakovic, but people like Steve Lee, people like Danny Myers, Matthew Myers, who've all sort of they've come through and they've grown under Corey Nielsen. And I think you're right. I think that is forgotten. I mean, I think it was I forget which player it was either last season or the season before, and said a lot of coaches, I think it was an import, when you're brought over here, they expect you to be the finished article. I think it was Lee Salters actually. But, Nielsen is always working with them on stuff like that as well. So I think that gives you an insight into the sort of coach he is. He's always looking to improve what he's got.
I mean, for me, I think Swindlehurst came a bit out of left field as a surprise signing. A very, very good signing that improves our British roster no end. Was it a surprise to you, Aaron, or because I remember a podcast we did towards the end of last season, and you said you'd like to see Swindlehurst come to the Panthers, and you got your wish.
Well, yeah, I did, to be honest. Yeah, slightly surprising in one way, but then in another way not, because Brits are very hard to come by, and I think if you rest on your laurels with Brits, then you come kind of unstuck. And I'm going to use kind of the Sheffield Steelers in that, because if you don't sort of rotate and refresh your Brit roster, then you come to one season and they're sort of not over the hill, but they're coming to the point of where retirement isn't that far away. And the problem with that is you've got other teams that have already signed these Brits, and they become part of the club, they become part of the organisation. So, and it kind of ties into the question that you asked Paul as well. Nielsen is very close to Brits. He works, he has that reputation. Paul Swindlehurst said it in his interview. It's a major factor. So I think from our point of view, we would have been looking at somebody like Paul Swindlehurst, and in that sense, it's not a total surprise that we managed to sign him.
A couple of weeks passed after the Swindlehurst signing when there was a bit of a blow for the Panthers when on May the 7th, which will probably always now be known as Black Thursday, it was announced that Guillaume Doucet was signing for the Dark Conference rivals, the Cardiff Devils. Chris Higgins was returning to the Belfast Giants, and probably the biggest surprise is that Jonathan Boxhill is also going to the Giants. A question for us all, I suppose, and Paul, I'll let you answer this one first. Who out of those three do you think was the biggest loss?
Well, I mean, I'm glad you told me that they'd all gone, because I'd forgotten about all of them. They're all there's nothing to me now anyway. But I think out of the three, I mean, they're all going to be losses in their own way. But I think the thing that you'll find it hardest, Corey Nielsen will find it hardest to replace, is the goals that Doucet brought you. Because he came into a team that we were saying almost from the start of the season. Well, I was anyway. That it was short on goals, and and he was brought back in, brought into the team, and and that's what he brought you, and those goals and that sort of that constant eye for getting into a situation, hustling to get there. That that I think that is something that's been very, very difficult to replace.
Aaron, same question to you.
Yeah, I'm kind of inclined to say Doucet as well, to be honest, because, I mean, Boxhill is a loss. There's no doubt about it. I could repeat what I just said to your previous question about Brits, but the thing about Doucet, and the thing that I've kind of noticed at the time, and, you go on social media when it was announced and stuff, and people say, Doucet is, there's plenty of imports, there's plenty of Doucets out there in the world. But the thing that I question about that is Doucet has been there and done it in our league for two different teams now. He did it for the Stingrays, and then, like Paul just said, he came into our team when, we weren't firing on all cylinders on the goal front, and he just flicked his switch and became our second highest goal scorer for, half a season. He will do it in this league, and he's just a born sniper. There's no other way to describe him in my eyes. So yes, there might be people out there that can get goals and can put up points in the Elite League, or they might in their previous teams got the points, and you look on Elite Prospects, for example, and you go, well, he'll do it in this league, but it's always a question mark, isn't it? Whereas with Doucette, you knew that.
It's better the devil, and if you'll excuse the pun, isn't it? You know what Doucette's going to bring.
Yeah, and I do agree with what you said, Paul, as well. They'll all be missed in one way, but I tell you the one that I think will be least missed, and that'll be Higgins.
I mean, I appreciate what you're saying, Aaron, but I think you can find goal scorers, and I mean, Hull found him. Why can't Corey go out and find a couple of goal scorers? I think
he probably will.
Yeah, but I think imports aren't. I mean, some people were saying that his loss was irreplaceable, and I don't agree with that.
Nobody's irreplaceable.
But I think the Brits are a lot harder to replace than the imports are, and that's why I think for me, Boxhill is probably the biggest loss of those, because that guy brought energy and he brought effort to every single shift he was on the ice. That's now going to be benefiting the Giants. And, he'll never be the biggest point scorer for any team that he plays for. But what that guy gave in effort and just heart, I think that he's going to be a big miss from the team.
I think you're right. I think he will. But to counter that, and it's a beautiful link into your next bit. Don't you think that the loss of Boxhill has been at least tempered by the return of Matthew Myers?
Well, yeah.
Seamless.
That's why I'm back. This is what I'm bringing back.
It's almost like I've written an agenda.
You're the one ignoring it.
So, yes, the very next day, to appease what was quite an angry fan base, I think it has to be said, there was a lot of things being said on social media after those three left the club. But on Friday, May the 8th, it was announced that Matthew Myers was returning to Panthers after 2 seasons at the Cardiff Devils. Aaron, was it a surprise to you that Cardiff released him?
Well, you say released. You mean that implies that they released him. They just didn't.
Okay,
they didn't re-sign
him. Yeah,
didn't re-sign him. Well, I don't know. I remember at the time that. Well, okay. Let's go back to when he left the Panthers and he went back to Cardiff. I think a lot of people thought, that is where he's going to, he'll have some years there, and then he'll probably end up retiring, and then Cardiff will be his last team. But you saw on social media after he signed for us that. I even think Simsy said something about the way the new import rule and the EU, national, there was no room for Matthew Myers at the Cardiff Devils Inn or something like that. So, maybe he wasn't in their plans for the foreseeable future. And as the Panthers said, the door was left open. They've left on good terms when he did leave. And, I think the thing that Matthew Myers brings to us is a face-off winner. And that is another area that people were moaning about last season, and we struggled in last season. So, just to quickly say, I get what you were saying about Boxhill, and I think Boxy is the number one penalty killer Brit in this league by a mile, to be honest. But
even more than Robert Lakovic.
Yeah, I would. Yeah, I think Boxy is number one penalty. He would, if I was, Steve Thornton now, I would put Jonathan Boxhill on my number one PK unit. I think he's just he puts his body there, and I just think he's a fantastic penalty killer. But back to Matthew Myers, I just think he will bring improvement on what we struggled with last season. I mean, he's only 30.
True.
I
think that's something that's often overlooked. He is still quite young.
He's still got 2 years minimum, I think, at this level.
Well, if you consider that David Clark's 34, you'd probably say more than that.
That's why I said minimum of 2.
Paul, how important was it that Panthers made that announcement so quickly after losing to Set, Higgins and Boxhill?
Oh, you're trying to get me into trouble again, aren't you?
I'm not trying to get you into trouble.
You've had the
You are
agenda,
getting me
Paul.
in trouble.
You've had the agenda.
Yeah, well, you was going on about research.
Not to this bit, I wasn't. Well, it depends, doesn't it? It depends whether you are mad for signings every day of the week till the middle of April and then you sat there with your team till August. For me, no, it wasn't. I'm too long in the tooth. I've seen too many players come and go to be climbing the stairs to the top of Victoria Centre Flats to throw myself off. But there were some. It wasn't a great day for us, but these days happen. There'll be any number of other players from last season that we won't be told have left. Probably we'll just have to work it out when we sign replacements for them. But I think in this day and age where there is more, there is greater fan expectations. Probably not the right word, but the clamouring for the signings. They want news all the time because that's the way the world is these days. This constant news and people get used to that. But I really don't know what the answer to this question is now, if I'm honest. Move on to the next one.
Okay. Well, Andy Haywood, who unfortunately can't be with us tonight, said on Twitter after that signing that in regards to the whole of the Elite League, this was as big a signing as Mike Forney going to the Belfast Giants. Paul, do you agree with that?
I can see what he's saying because of what Myers will bring to us, and the fact that they've both gone from one team to another. But as big a Forney, I think it's difficult to say. For me, ask me in a couple of months. Well, actually, no, from here, 3 or 4 months.
I personally think it was a huge signing. Player for player, Matthew Myers is an upgrade on Bloxhill, skill-wise, points-wise. So I think in that regard, it's a massive signing. We've managed to sign an import quality brick.
It gives you more options, doesn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think it is a massive signing. Whether it's as big as the top goal scorer from last season moving to another club, I'm not so sure because I think Forney going to Belfast was a massive coup for them. Aaron, your thoughts?
Yeah, I think Andy's talking absolute tosh.
Don't hold back. Say what you really think.
For pretty much what you just said there, you're talking about the top goal scorer in the league. Import going from the championship winning side to a team that finished fourth, I believe. That I don't see anything bigger than that. Don't get me wrong. As you two have said, and as Andy has pointed out to us when we've spoken to him, Matthew Myers is a big coup. But if you told me that I had to put £5 on Matthew Myers coming back from Cardiff to the Panthers, or Mike Forney going from Sheffield to Belfast, I would have put it on Cardiff. Matthew Myers coming back from Cardiff, because I couldn't honestly see Forney going from Sheffield to Belfast.
The first import signing, or new import signing, was on May the 19th. That was Jeff Dimmen, who signed from Anyang Halle in the Asian League after 3 seasons spent in the AHL. I managed to catch up with him earlier this week to ask him about his move to the Panthers. Delighted to welcome to the Cats Whiskers podcast a new signing for the Nottingham Panthers in defence. It's Jeff Dimmen. How are you?
I'm good. How are you doing?
Very well, thank you. Appreciate you taking the time to talk to us on the show this week.
Yeah, it's great to finally talk to you, and I'm excited to get this thing going here.
Great stuff. So you signed for the Panthers about 2 weeks ago, and you've been playing in the Asian League for the past 2 seasons for Anyang Halle. How did you find it playing out there?
It was a lot of fun. It was the first time I had left North America to play hockey, and I didn't really know what to expect, but it was awesome. I can't say anything but good things about my time there, and it was a real cool experience too. We got to go to Shanghai and Tokyo and play in Russia, so not that many people know about that league, but it's kind of a hidden gem, and the hockey's a lot better than people would think.
We don't know a great deal about the Asian League over here in the UK. I mean, we've had a few players come over to the Elite League from that league. I was just wondering what the standard was like, say, compared to what the North American minors are like.
I would say it's maybe a little bit faster of a game. They can really skate and they have really good skill, but maybe their hockey minds just aren't quite where everyone else is. I mean, when they're growing up, they don't get to play as many games as, say, North American players do. So maybe they don't think the game quite as well as North Americans, but they make up for it with their speed and skill.
I noticed from your 2 seasons there, you had an incredible plus-minus rating of plus 98. I mean, that's pretty sensational.
Yeah, it was pretty good. I got to log a lot of ice and play in all situations. So that might be a little bit inflated or skewed compared to North American standards, but I had a good run there.
How many minutes were you playing a game on average?
I don't know. They don't really keep track of those types of stats, but maybe every third shift with power play and penalty kill. So
yeah.
Not too much, but it was a big sheet of ice playing on an Olympic sheet and chasing those guys all over the ice. So it was definitely enough ice for me.
Oh, you'll be used to most of the Olympic sheets that we have over here then, because they're pretty much the same size in many of the rinks in the UK.
Sounds good. I think that'll be good for my game.
Yeah. Well, how would you describe yourself as a player?
I guess I would just say most off extremely competitive and well-rounded. I think my game is suited for any type of game. I definitely like to be offensive, but I don't sacrifice my defensive zone play or my defensive play just to put points on the board.
Mm-hmm. Well, of course, Coach Corey Nielsen was very much a summer player, so I'm sure he'll probably have your quarterback in the power play.
Well, that'd be good, and it'd be good to learn from him. I know that he did quite a career, and I'm sure he could teach me a thing or two.
How would you describe the welcome you've had from the Panthers fans? Because I noticed on Twitter you put that you have to up your Twitter game after the amount of followers that you got just in the hours after your signing.
Yeah, it was unbelievable. I think they must have announced my signing about 4:30 or 5 a.m. my time. I got a pretty good wake-up call. My phone was going crazy for the next 2.5 hours. I couldn't get back to sleep, but it got me really excited to see the fan base, and just for signing. Nobody had ever seen me play or even really knew who I was, so I thought that was pretty incredible.
What do you know of the Elite League and the standard that you're coming to? Is it something you've done some research on and spoken to other players about?
Yeah, I've done a bit of research, and I know some guys that have played over there or have gone from other leagues to go back there, and I've heard it's a great league and ultra competitive, and I heard that these cities are really wild about hockey, so I'm excited to explore some new places and see what it's all about.
Finally, you're coming to Nottingham on a deal that sees you going to Loughborough University to further your education. Was that a big factor for you coming to join the Panthers?
Yeah, I definitely think that was one of the main factors in my decision. I know that the hockey program in Nottingham is great, but I also wanted to couple it with school, and the Loughborough school seemed second to none, and I'm really excited about being able to pair athletics with academics again, like kind of going back to my undergrad years in Maine. And that was definitely a big draw for me. I had to make the decision whether to keep going just with hockey or someday hockey's going to end, and I'd like to have something else in the pipeline going forward.
Well, Jeff, I want to thank you very much for taking the time to speak to us here, and we look forward to seeing you putting on the black and gold shirt in August.
Yeah, I can't wait to get there, and thanks for having me on today, and I'm really excited. I'm looking forward to it.
Jeff Dimmen there talking about his signing for the Panthers. Paul, he said in the interview that the university degree at Loughborough was a major factor in him signing. So, in your eyes, how important are those deals for recruitment and in probably recruiting better quality players?
Yeah, I mean, well, they're part of the package that you can offer, aren't they? Mm. And there are going to be players who, for whatever reason, are want to continue, their degree, and where better, really, in terms of the teams. In terms of the universities that are affiliated with teams like this, than Loughborough. 11th best in the country, and they've got a sports program at that university that's second to none. In this country. So but the one thing that worries me, and it's probably me being moaning again, is that this, I think, is the fourth university we've had a university deal with. Mm. There are only so many universities local to us. So we mess this one up, or where do we go from there?
Aaron, I'm going to leave that one. I think I'm going to leave that one hanging.
Tell that, yeah. Tell
Aaron, on a totally different side. For me, from talking to him, I think he is actually going to be one of the standout D-men in the Elite League this year. I just looking at his stats and looking at where he's come from, and I've mentioned it in the interview that plus-minus rating of plus 98 in Asia is incredible. Do you think he's going to be a standout?
I think he's got, from what we can, read into stats and hearing him on an interview, I think he's got all the makings of being a very good player in this league. Like he just said in that interview, that the stats and the plus of 98 in the Asia League, might be a little bit not a true figure to it was, but I personally think he will be a point a game, defenseman at least. I think you're looking at our number one, offensive defenseman on the roster, and if he can put the numbers up which he did in the Asia League, I'll hold my hands up and say I don't really know much about that league, but I think he's got all the capability there to certainly be a very, very good defenseman in this league. And my only thing is, and I know we'll come on to the other signings and what we kind of feel for the defence as a whole, but I think there is a lot of onus on him to put up numbers, and it's whether he can handle that pressure. But what I like about just very quickly, what I like about it is he seems a very very clever gentleman. And I think Corey has said this about players as well. And, if they're clever gentlemen, they understand the game, they understand what Corey will be, telling them. So I think he's a very positive signing.
Just going back to what you were saying about the offensive defenseman, though, do you not think that Evan Mosey will fulfil some of that role? Because I know a lot of people have said they expect him to go on the forward lines, but it was clearly said that we will be going with four lines this season, and Neil Black said at the playoff weekend it'll be 8 defensemen, 12 forwards, 2 netminders, a squad of 22. Mosey now makes up that 8-man defensive roster, so surely he can take some of that pressure off Dimmen.
Yeah, but I think you're looking at Dimmen being on the first line of defence.
Yeah, obviously.
I don't see Mosey, to be honest, getting many shifts on D. Unless we have, injury problems and he has to play there more times, then he probably wants to, or what Corey will be looking for him to do. But I would have liked, and I know we'll talk about this again, but I would have liked another, somebody like a Cody Wild or somebody on that second line, that could have decent numbers. But I just think there'll be a lot of onus on Jeff Dimmen to put up the numbers. But I also think it also gives the opportunity for Swindlehurst, Stevie Lee, to really sort of progress in that area as well and put up more numbers and give them more responsibility when it comes to putting up numbers as a defenseman.
Paul, Aaron said there that he doesn't believe Mosey will get many shifts, but would that be fair on Evan Mosey, especially as he more than proved himself last season?
It wouldn't, but I also don't think Aaron's entirely correct.
What?
So, you heard it here first, people. I disagreed with Aaron. Because I think what will happen is basically, we'll get a couple of weeks into the season, somebody will get injured, 3 or 4 people will get injured, knowing our luck, and it doesn't matter whether it's a forward or a defenceman that gets injured. What I think we'll see is, almost like, I don't really want to use the word utility player, because normally when we've signed them before, it means they're no good anyway. But if he can be used as that, if he needs to go into defence, he'll go into defence. If he needs to play forward, he'll play forward. And that I think is one of the things that Mosey brings to the team. In the same way that you were talking about Box Hill earlier, about the energy he brings, and on the penalty kill, I can see that Mosey could be used in a very similar role.